Talofa! My name is Jack Mandeville, and this is Jacked History. I covered the legendary seafaring capabilities of the Norse peoples in an early episode of mine. Aside from making their way all throughout Europe, Central Asia, and even all the way down to Southwest Asia, they also moved west through open oceans, discovering previously uninhabited lands like Iceland and Greenland, and even making their way into inhabited places like modern Canada, which made them the first Europeans to discover the Americas, beating Christopher Columbus by almost 500 years. But what if I told you that around the same time, there was another group of legendary seafaring people who were making landfall in the Americas? And their trek through open oceans was even more daunting than anything imaginable. I'm talking about the Polynesians, baby. I briefly covered ancient Polynesian sea exploration in a previous episode, and I stated it was a topic that deserves more attention. So that's what we're doing today. We know about the Vikings because they're a big brand name, and rightfully so. But for whatever reason, Polynesian exploration in the Americas is often overlooked. Even today, Polynesian culture in the United States can be relatively overshadowed by cultures with larger populations, both in the United States and abroad. Well, unless you're an avid fan of BYU football, of course, then you're very aware of Polynesian contributions. That was a joke for all you Mormons watching this episode. I write that joke as I sit in Salt Lake City at this very moment. I'm performing the joke right now while I sit in Texas at Peter's house. I'm in Texas as I'm recording the episode, but I'm reading what I'm writing at this very moment as I sit in Salt Lake. Are you tracking? Do you understand, Peter? Okay, moving on. Let's talk backdrop. Through modern genome testing and linguistic comparisons, experts place the origins of the Polynesian peoples over 3,500 years ago in modern Taiwan and Southeast Asia. You know, Thailand, Vietnam, all those places with really fucking good food. From there, they took their skilled sailing and navigation skills and went south, landing in places like the modern Philippines, New Guinea, and other closely surrounding islands in Micronesia and Melanesia. Now, there were people already there, and over time, these seafaring Southeast Asians intermixed with those island cultures in what eventually evolved into the Lapita culture. They had a distinct look and distinct customs from the previous cultures they came from and ended up mixing with. From there, they took their unique navigational skills and moved even farther east into uninhabited Oceania. Remote places like Tonga, Samoa, and Fiji that had never experienced human contact were now populated by these Lapita peoples. And then it just kind of stopped around the 9th century BC. Any potential islands east or south of the aforementioned locations would have been thousands of miles, and it seemed like the Lapita sailing technology was not capable of going any further east or south in such open spaces of ocean. So they sat, and sat, and sat, and sat. And in a roughly 1,800-year period of being stuck in place, the Lapita peoples slowly morphed into the Polynesian peoples. They looked different than their East Asian predecessors. They talked differently than their East Asian predecessors. They ate different. They worshiped differently. They dressed differently, etc., etc., etc. To give an example of how long that period of stagnation and movement was, that would be like the peak of the Roman Empire around 200 AD until now. And unlike cultures that are most commonly bound together through large shared land masses, these emerging Polynesians occupied numerous tiny islands in over 500,000 square miles of ocean, with each island having its own unique cultural elements to it within the larger culture. Enter the double-hulled canoe. For years, common thinking was that these Polynesians arrived in the Pacific Islands by pure accident, aimlessly drifting until they hit land, which is bonkers when you think about it. There is no way a human being is going to just board a raft and let the currents take them wherever for thousands of miles, hoping to hit some land before they starve to death. Well, unless you're Tom Hanks in Castaway, I guess. No. Their method of navigating the vast Pacific Ocean was calculating and well planned with advanced boat-building capabilities. The double-hull canoe was an approximately 60-foot-long equivalent of a modern catamaran, which could hold up to 30 people, along with supplies like livestock and other food items. The ropes that held it together were made of coconut fibers, and the sails itself from tree leaves. These weren't built to aimlessly float the ocean. The Polynesians had already developed an advanced navigational system that utilized the stars, sun, and moon, currents, wind and wave patterns, and bird movements in order to identify potential lands, as they bravely moved around an endless ocean of up to 6 million square miles. Right around the time the Viking hordes were sailing around and terrorizing coastal Europe in the 8th, 9th, and 10th centuries, the Polynesians were quite arguably developing into the greatest seafaring people of all time, discovering thousands of islands that lasted for a roughly 400-year period. Like, there wasn't a chunk of land sticking out of the ocean that they weren't going to get their hands on. And remember, like the Norse arrivals in Iceland and Greenland, these places were completely unoccupied and all theirs for the taking. The Cook Islands? Dibs. Tahiti? Dibs. A little place called Hawaii? Aloha! Dibs. Oh, what's this paradise without any human footprint? Well, guess what? It's ours, and we're gonna be called Maori now. Dibs. Easter Island? Dibs. Thousands of other islands that had never experienced human presence. Dibs, 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 dibs. And it's not like these people showed up to these uninhabited islands and decided to just set up shop and never move again. Sure, on those islands, they all developed their own distinct cultures over time, but they all shared common Polynesian roots and would have been sailing back and forth to other islands to conduct trade and possibly even wage war, as was the case in the Hawaiian Islands that were never truly unified into one kingdom until the late 18th century. So let's do some deducing here. Judging by where Easter Island is on the map compared to South America, it would completely make sense that these master seafarers would have kept going, right? I mean, if they were able to locate the tiniest of islands all over the 6 million square mile Polynesian triangle, there's no way they're not going to run into a gigantic landmass by sailing just 2,200 more miles east. Anthropologists and historians operated under the assumption that this was the case for a number of years, but there was never any findings of Polynesian settlements along the South American coast to give any hard evidence of this. Oh, snap! That's right! We have this cool little thing in the last 40 years called DNA testing. And a 2020 study found that Polynesian peoples from numerous islands west of South America had small amounts of South American indigenous DNA in them. That was traced back roughly 800 years when the Polynesians would have been moving around the area. Shortly after the period, the European Norse were beginning to occupy Greenland and other parts of northeastern North America. So what does that mean? Well, it's a pretty damn good indicator that Polynesians made landfall in the Americas, mixed and bred with the South American natives, then made their way back to the familiarity of their ancestral islands. Further identification of poultry bones in South America indicates chickens were brought to the Americas by Polynesians, not the Spanish who showed up hundreds of years later. And DNA testing of sweet potatoes in modern Polynesia links their indigenous roots to South America, a veggie that would have been brought back and introduced to Polynesian islands by their people returning from South America. But Jack, why wouldn't those Polynesian people have stayed longer in this brand new large discovery of land and set up permanent settlements in South America? You may be asking. Sure, let's do this. Thanks for asking, by the way. If you watched my second episode, it's probably for the same reasons the Norse struggled to maintain permanent settlements in North America. While the Norse had the benefits of populating previously uninhabited places like Iceland and southern Greenland, when they attempted to do anything significant around what is modern Canada, they were more than likely chased off by indigenous Americans who drastically outnumbered them. Same goes for the Polynesians. All of those islands they had been occupying for hundreds of years were ripe for the taking. But when they got to South America, there had already been people there for almost 20,000 years. They vastly outnumbered the Polynesians in population and probably had well-established fighting capabilities. And since the Polynesians were as foreign to them as the Norse were to the North American natives, their welcome probably didn't last long. And like Christopher Columbus arriving in North America almost 500 years after the Norse had beat him to it, the Spanish eventually made their way into South America, believing they were the first non-natives to find the place after the Polynesians had already beat them to it by hundreds of years. And as for European contact with the Polynesians themselves, that's a whole different bag to unpack. But go ahead and check out my episode about Captain James Cook's arrival in Hawaii for more history on that. It's a little more violent than this episode. And if you'd like to learn even more about Polynesian contributions in America, like I said earlier, just watch BYU football. They're all the big brown fellas who tower over all their white teammates and like the 3 black guys on the team. Oh, hey, Peter, you got any food in your fridge that I can call dibs on right now? Please like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and call dibs on sharing this video. Hey, what's going on? My name is Jack Mandeville. You're watching Jacked History. I've already introduced myself. Anyways, we are here today with Jason Murph of Grill Your Ass Off, founder, CEO, the guy that gives me all that free product. And he's gonna be taking us through on some cooking stuff. And if you click off this ad, where you're gonna be missing out on good yum-yums, okay? You don't want that on your conscience.
All right, so today we are gonna be making cowboy butter. I know you've never had cowboy butter. So.
Well, what kind of cowboy butter? Like that kind?
All right, so starting off, we're gonna be using 1 full stick of butter, unsalted butter. You do not get salted because you start with salted, everything can become over salty and you can't go back from there. If you start with unsalted, you have the room to add some more. So we'll be doing 1 full stick. We'll throw it inside of our pot. We're gonna do the zest of half of a lemon. So pro tip on this, if you hold it just like this right here, you can then slide it as you go so you can get end to end on that lemon. And we're just gonna slightly rotate as we go. A lot of people don't think that zesting is really necessary for things like a cowboy butter, but I'm telling you, it makes the world of a difference on flavor if you actually add to it.
Speaking of zesting, I took a shower this morning, which was a big accomplishment for me, and I got zestfully clean. You're not fully clean until you're zestfully clean. You need to pay me for that zest. You need to pay me for that. This is an ad within the ad.
We have a contract, Jack.
Okay.
You can fork it out because I don't have all of my normal kitchen tools here. We'll stick a fork inside of it.
Working in a new kitchen is kind of like driving somebody else's car. Like, you know how to do it, but you're not really familiar with the buttons. It's kind of a learning curve.
It just doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right, yeah.
We are gonna be doing about 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. We already have it minced right here in our little salsa bowl. And while I add this, I was gonna see, can you start peeling the thyme?
I am not good at peeling this thyme.
Because you do not want any of the stems.
Oh, well, I know how to take stems out from my time smoking pot in the 90s.
Yeah, no seeds or stems in this right here. So while Jack does that, I'm gonna be adding Willie Pete chicken seasoning. This is a Southwest garlic style seasoning. It's also got some red pepper flake inside of it. So it's gonna be a great seasoning to use to build a good layer of flavor on this. So we're gonna be doing about a tablespoon inside of here. Just like that right there. And keep in mind, while you're doing this, you can go by feel, you can go directly by a recipe, but always, if you go a little bit on the lighter side, you can add more later and not hate your life. How's that going, Jack?
I am working very slow, but diligently.
Okay, while Jack continues to do that, we're gonna take some Dijon mustard, and we're gonna be adding just about a tablespoon as well, maybe just a tad bit more, like that right there. You can go ahead and chop up the thyme.
Okay.
And our chives. I've actually never seen Jack wield the knife, so
yeah.
Let's see.
How am I doing so far?
You're doing something. Now we have all this, butter's melting. You can go ahead and get this a good stir. I'm gonna crank up the heat to medium heat. We're gonna bring it up to basically a simmer. And then we will, once it hits that simmer, we know everything's gonna be getting hot, incorporated. We're gonna bring it back down to a lower heat and have it ready to go. So that way, whenever we have our steaks, my favorite way to do this cowboy butter is we're gonna slice our steaks and then pour it right across the top. And you just use it as a topping and it'll be amazing. So how's that smell?
I want to do the thing. I've been asking, can I do the thing? Oh my fudging, geez Louise. Are you kidding me? As someone who's been smoking cigarettes for over 20 years, I can tell you that this is coming right through all of that damage in my nose and puncturing me with deliciousness right now.
Yeah.
Bruh, I wish you could taste this right now. But if you're paying attention and you can make it yourself, my mouth is coming. I'm doing orgasm in my mouth. Oh, I'm gonna do the heroin. I'm gonna do the heroin dance. I'm gonna do the heroin dance.